All right, so I am making this late night video. It's 12 o'clock, midnight, Montreal time. And right before I go to sleep, I'm going to make this video because a few people asked me about UVs, what they are, and what is this thing called UVs. So I'm hopefully going to show that. Okay, so here's a model of a fire hydrant, random fire hydrant from Montreal. If you know, see, open, ouvert and it has UVs. What are UVs? Well, UVs are simply a data set that is associated with a 3D model that tells the computer how to flatten the model from 3D, which you'll see here, to 2D. So if I go into the edit mode here, first I'll click this thing. If I go into edit mode and I select this thing and I go into UV editing, that's the wrong one. I'll go here. If I go into UV editing, you will see, and I turn this thing on, you will see that this, actually I'll take off the map. This is the fire hydrant, which has been broken down into tons of different pieces. It's as if the whole thing was made out of cardboard and you had to make a cardboard fire hydrant, which means you have to make pieces for the cylinder part. You have to make little rings for each of the flat parts of the cylinders. You have to make little circles for those parts. You have to make little cubes and have the cubes be able to be unfolded. Essentially, you have to take every part of the 3D model and be able to unfold the entire thing into flat pieces, or maybe if you're lucky, one flat piece. So this allows the 3D model to be flattened out. Now the purpose of doing this is so that then you can actually have texture maps which are aligned perfectly with the 3D model, and you can align it exactly how you want. So for example, here is the coloring. I'll take off the UVs for a second. That's the coloring of this fire hydrant, like the red part sort of with all this weathering. And you see that the parts fit on perfectly because the map was made onto the UV map. So again, if I look here, I turn on my thing here and I go on to into here. For example, if I take this piece here, that's this piece here, this central part has been broken down into all these pieces. So that's been cut there. It's been cut this part, it's been cut down the back as if it was made out of cardboard. Okay, so that is what the UVs are. They are the two-dimensional version of a 3D model. In math, they're called a net. A net is the name for when you take a shape and you flatten it out. So I'll show you sort of some simpler shapes so that you can get the idea. So if you take a cube, for example, and all of the primitives in Blender and most 3D programs already have UVs associated with them. So if I take this cube here and I go to edit mode, and I select everything, I'll get rid of this weird red map. I see that this cube has already been cut and flattened into this net. Basically, I can select the different faces, that's the bottom one, this is that one, this is that one, this is that one, this is that one. And so if you select them all, you see that that's how it has been cut. It has been split in a specific way. The blender decided to split it in that specific way. So it's been cut along all of these orange lines that you see. So the orange lines are where it's been cut. Now you could um, you could cut meshes in many different ways. So for example, I could, now that these are all selected, what I could do is I could do a UVing that looks like this, where each piece has been separated and they're laying next to each other. Because once you cut the UVs, you can arrange them however you want. You know, I can move this around here and move this around here, and this is just called the UV layout, organizing the UV layout. So once the model has been what they call unwrapped, which means cut and flattened, you can move it around this UV space in however you want. And there's many videos about UV layouts and how to do that. But the point is to have a flat version. And for example, another kind of simple thing is if you have, for example, the cylinder, and I take that cylinder, and now you see that the cylinder has been separated into the top, the bottom, and this piece in the middle that's been cut somewhere. And in fact, we can probably tell where it's cut by doing this. There, now we can tell where it's been cut. Well, it's been cut along these two circles, and there's been a slice in the back, and that's how it's been able to be flattened out. So once again, it's been flattened out. And now I can have a texture map that fits perfectly on the top. Fits perfectly over it, I mean. And the more sort of, I guess, the more complex thing is when you have sort of a something like a character or whatever. This is an animal, is a turtle, and the turtle here also, of course, has UVs. And if I go into edit mode, once again, you have to go into edit mode to do this. And I go into come on, turtle, where are you? There we go. If I go into edit mode, I see that this turtle has been sliced up into all these different pieces. See where the seams are. And again, hold on, let me just get this thing selected. It's been cut where all these red lines are. Been cut there. The shell's been cut off. This has been cut off here. And it's kind of like if you took a polar bear, you know, those horrific uh, bear rugs where they have a bear and they've sliced the bear there and they've taken off their skin, they've flattened it and stuck it on the floor of some kind of Las Vegas hotel or Niagara Falls hotel. A bear rug is basically the same thing that you're doing to the model. You're slicing it and then flattening it out. So now I have a flattened version of this thing, and that means that I can actually do, you know, texture map where everything is fitting perfectly on top of the parts of the model. And so if I take it off, you see that's the texture map, and the model pieces perfectly on top. The pieces fit perfectly on top. Obviously, this is the top of the shell, and that piece there is the top of the shell, etc., etc. So if I, do that, yes, clearly that's the top of the shell. This here is the head. If I do this, that's the face. So that's how it works. It is UVs are there to make a 2D model, a 2D version of your 3D model. Now, in future videos, I'll show you how to make UVs if you don't have any, and and I'll show you how to do different ways of rearranging the UVs to make it kind of more efficient. But anyway, that's the basics.